Welcome to another episode of Trading the Price, a video series on trade setup for stock, future, and ETF. Today is July 16, 2017. In part one of this video, we'll look at the market. We'll go to looking at the major market indexes along with the respective ETF. Then we'll look at also the ES, which is the E-mini S&P 500 future, and the NQ, which is the E-mini NASDAQ 100 future. Then in part two of this video, we'll look at some of the stock. The stock include Apple, Facebook, Alibaba, Tesla, Netflix, Google, Amazon, NVDA, and Goldman Sachs. And also we're going to follow up on a couple of stocks that we've been watching, which is the SNAP and Under Armour. In addition to that, there's a couple stocks that's going to do for earning in the coming day. So we're going to also look at some of the projected price move for Goldman Sachs and Netflix on the earning report. So let's get started. First, looking at the indexes. As you can see on this chart here, we see that the Dow Jones Industrial, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ Composite, the New York Exchange Composite, the Dow Jones Transportation, and the Russell 2000, they all close at a new all-time high, a new closing high there on Friday. And the NASDAQ still lagging a little bit, but it is coming up, and most likely it too will close at a new all-time high. And if we take a look at the Dow Jones Industrial and the Dow Jones Transportation candlestick chart, as you can see that after the Dow Jones been consolidating here, the industrial been consolidating in this area, while the transportation is making its move back up to the recent high. And you can see as it broke to a new high, it kind of gave us the indication that the industrial will also be closing at a new high in the near future. And as you can see that once the transportation broke through this resistance level, and it just printed a series of higher high or new all-time high, then the Dow Jones Industrial finally participated and also made a new all-time high. So as it stands right now, looking at the behavior based on the Dow theory, the price action indicate that we will still see further high for the Dow Jones Industrial. And if we look at the S&P 500, let me get the S&P 500 chart here. Okay, the S&P 500, we can see that the S&P 500 also came up and closed at a new all-time closing high. And you can see that the VIX is now down at the sub 9 level. And as we indicated last week, the advanced decline is continued to, trending higher. So you can see also on Friday it closed at a higher high. So again, the internal, the market internal, from all the internal that I monitor, it has not show sign of any deterioration. So the internal is still relatively strong, and clearly indicating that the market has not topped yet. So we'll continue to look for a newer high. Okay, so now let's take a look at the individual indexes, and we're going to start off with the ES, the E-mini, and let me switch over. So we're going to take a look at the E-mini. As you can see, I got the monthly chart here. The ES, it's already it's only half a month gone by, and it's already took out previous month high. So right now it seems like it's want to make its way up to the upper channel here, And if we look at the weekly, it took out that inside bar, that inside week that we had the previous week. So right now it closed with a very solid bullish candle, and close at a new all-time closing high. As you can see, looking at the daily, the daily here, and the price action. Remember last week we were talking about one of the scenario was to break above this trend line and maybe come back for a little bit test and go. As soon as it get above this pivot, then we say this high will be in play. So right now I also added a trend line here, so there could be a little bit of a resistance up here. In addition to that, if you note that I also have added a couple Fibonacci retracements, since this is a uncharted territory right now. So the tool that I use to kind of get some idea where are some of the potential level that the price might hit, and that too I normally resort to the Fibonacci retracement and Fibonacci extension tool. Okay, so if you could looking at this here, we have this swing up and then retracement to 50%. Right. So essentially I'm doing this retracement here, and you can see that the 100% is the 161 is up at the 2513, and the 141 is near the 2492, and the 127 is at 2478. And right now the again we have to bear in mind that there is that psychological effect of a round number, which is the 2500. Okay, so I got this these level here on the retracement extension from the retracement. Then in addition to that, I also have what we call a symmetry move. Right, if we take this the magnitude of this move and project it over here, then we're essentially getting this 100% symmetry will be 2502.25. So that is pretty close to this psychological round number here. Okay, so but in addition to that, I think the first level of resistance we probably encounter is probably this confluence, right? This confluence here, okay, with the retracement extension and also the symmetry move. If we take a look at this 78.6, that's 2480. And the 127 2478, so they pretty much close near that 2480. So then looking at a scenario of what the price action might expect for the coming days. I don't exactly have the timing, but basically just the sort of price movement that I'm mapping out as a potential scenario. Okay, so one is that the price will pull back and test this breakout pivot, right, and then come up and maybe test the resistance of this trend line, then pull back to the 618, right, get a little bit of a test of support, and then push up to this confluence level somewhere around the 2480. Right. The other scenario is that, let's say the price is decide to pull back, and so probably bump up to a little bit of resistance up at this trend line and pull back, dip below this particular pivot high, this bigger pivot, and come back and retest it, cannot reclaim, then it just come down and fill this gap and maybe get down and retest these level, which is also close to the this particular trend line. Then we'll see would it be able to get a bounce off at these level. Okay, so that's basically the ES. And if we take a look at the cash index, the S&P 500. Okay, so the S&P 500, similar type of price action. So let's just jump into the scenario, and essentially what we're seeing here. Again, I got these Fibonacci extension, retracement and the symmetry move here. Okay, so you can see that we're basically looking at the possibility again, coming down, test this pivot, right, for support and bump up to this trend line resistance, minor resistance, and pull back to the 618, and then punch through to this confluence somewhere around 2481 to 2485 on the cash index, the S&P 500. And if we take a look at the SPY, okay, so the SPY here, let me get into this scenario, okay, and the SPY. Okay, so if we come up and look at the SPY, again, the same thing, we're basically looking at this particular pivot, right? This pivot high as support or resistance. So if it provides support, then it will bounce up to this trend line and kind of pull back a little bit and then punch through to 247.48, so around 247.50, right? So so that's that could be the the range for the week. We'll see. And the downside is that it will come back down, dip below this pivot, this breakout pivot, and come back and retest it to see could it reclaim, and found that as a resistance, then come down and fill this gap here, and then continue to move down and possibly retest this 2142-ish type of level, and see will we get a bounce off of this this level or the trend line here. Okay, so that's the S&P 500. So let's take a look at the NQ, which is the emini NASDAQ 100. And we'll take a look at the monthly. You see last month, we have this little hammer candle here, and it came back pretty strongly, and it's about to retake this the previous month, 2 months ago, the high here. Okay, I'm sorry, this is the weekly. Okay, so taking out this weekly, let's go back to the month. So on this monthly here, it came back, and it's getting getting back up, try to get up to this this high here, so putting in to test that all-time high. So again, looking at the weekly, this essentially set up a what we call a morning star, right? So so look for a continuation of upward move. If we could take out this pivot high, then this all-time high, then we'd probably be looking at higher level here. So again, if we look at the daily price action here last week, we're talking about reclaiming this trend line, and if we claim this trend line and then get up above this pivot high, then essentially the all-time high is back in play. So right now it's kind of bumping up against this pivot right now. So what we want to see is would it be able to get above that. So the scenario that I'm watching is for this thing to possibly get up to the new high, make a new high, and then come back down and retest, and then break through again and move into the 6,000 area, this 78.6. Again, I have this, you could look at this two-way, right? You look at this as a symmetry move or a bull flag, like, but in whichever way you want to look at it, the major move is basically this particular magnitude, right? So if we project that up here, the full 100% major move will bring it up to 61.20.25, but near the 80%, then it will be somewhere around this 6,000. So 6,000 is a nice psychological round number. So the market will likely also be keying on that figure. Right? So on the downside is that they're unable to get up above this pivot high, then they come back and back into the channel. Right, this little price channel here, and bump up against resistance, and it could not break back out, above this this trend line here, this channel. So it's just going to come back down and retrace itself, and maybe get back down to retest this level here, and that might form a head and shoulder pattern that this one fake a lot of people out. Okay, so we'll have to keep an eye on that to see how this play out. Okay. And if we take a look at the cash index, again, let's just jump into the scenario here. Okay, on this scenario, we basically also I have the same similar Fibonacci extension here to do the major move, and the major move for this bull flag or symmetry is 61.21.23 up here. Okay, so the scenario is that break into the new high, all-time high, and pull back, test it for support, and then come back and break through and get up to the 6005 area near the 80% extension. Okay, the major move. The other scenario is that it come down, right, back into the channel, unable to break the break above the channel again. Then it came down, filled this gap, and then pull back with the found this upper trend line on this declining channel to be resistant. Then it pull back and essentially come down and test these level near the 5633 and the 5568 area. Okay. And if we take a look at the QQQ, okay, once again we're gonna just jump to the scenario. Okay, again the extension on here is full 100% major move is 149.32, and looking to here, break into the new high, pull back, found support, and then break through again into higher high and into this near this 78.6, somewhere around the 146.43. Okay. And the pullback scenario would be, come back into the channel, come up and fill the gap, bump into resistance, unable to get above the breakout of the channel, and just continue to pull back and back to the trend line, possibly get down to the 137.47, 135.87 level. Okay, so that is the NASDAQ 100. So now let's look at the Russell 2000. Okay, the Russell 2000, remember we were talking about this particular price channel, and it's still confined in this price channel, although it broke through this particular level a little bit, and it closed at a new all-time closing high last Friday. So, and the scenario that I'm have mapped out is essentially come up, bump up to the test the upper channel trend line, okay, and then maybe pull back and retest this breakout level here. This this resistance level now turn into support, and then break through the channel and then move up into the area somewhere around the 1455 or 1470. Okay, there's two. The reason why I have two different levels here. One is basically just the major move of this consolidation area, and that put it up at 1455.72. Then the other one is we basically measure it like a bull flag, okay, and that will put this up at 1470.99. Okay, so that's why I got this, come up to the trend line on the channel, bump into resistance, come back and retest the breakout these pivot highs, and break the channel and move up to 1455 or the 1470 area. The pullback scenario is that unable to break, or move up to the upper channel trend line, pull back into this consolidation area, okay, into this this consolidation area, found resistance, and now test the consolidation support and failed to find support, then found resistance, and now it's come back down to the lower channel trend line, okay, down near the 1368, 1369. Okay, so that's the Russell 2000 cash index. And if we look at the IWM, let's go and look at the scenario. So again, here are these two levels corresponding to the major move of this consolidation area, or the the bull flag or symmetry move of this particular swing. So it's between 145.70 and 147.20. Okay, on the upside scenario is that bump up to this trend line, the upper channel trend line, and come down, test the pivot high for support, and then break through the channel and into these level here, between the 145.70 and 147.20. Okay, the pullback scenario is that it unable to break out of this consolidating zone, pull back and come back and retest it once again, and essentially put in maybe a slightly lower high, and then pull back and break below this consolidation support level, right? And then come back and try to reclaim it, and I'm able to reclaim it and hold above it, and then they continue to pull back to the lower channel trend line here near this 134.64. Okay, so that's basically the indexes and the ETF along with the future, the ES and the NQ. So in part 2, we will look at the stock that I mentioned earlier, and some of the projected earning report move for Goldman Sachs and Netflix. Right, in this second part of the video, we're going to take a look at the stock. The first one is Apple. Remember last week we were talking about Apple trying to reclaim this this trend line here, right? And also get above this declining trend line. And essentially, we want to see, can Apple get above this pivot low? If it could get above this pivot low, then these high will be back in play. And you can see right now that Apple is sitting right underneath this pivot low. So right now, we're essentially going to monitor to see would it be able to punch through and maybe possibly come back for a low retest and then push up. If it can't break through that, and then if it fail and come back below this this trend line, and test it up and cannot get back above it, and continue to work itself back down, then we could see these low might get retested again, and possibly get back down to this retracement zone. So again, we're still monitoring this this particular consolidation zone, or essentially look at this like a bear flag. So if this thing pull back and break these level, then essentially this is the major move here, the 129 level. And here looking at Facebook, as you recall last week, we're talking about some possibility of a swing long setup here, looking at this trade location here with the stop underneath the 148. So you can see that it broke through on these trade location and making a nice move up to the prior high and into a new high right now. And we're projecting the maximum R&R is basically a 3R here at 160-170, essentially up to moving up back up to this upper channel trend line here. So we're still looking for that possibility here, but it has made a quite a move. And if you're in a in long on Facebook on this trade, then I would consider maybe move the stop up and lock in, protect some profit if you haven't already taken some off the table. So just keep an eye on it to see would it be able to move up to the upper trend line here on this price channel, or come back down. Possibility maybe fill this gap, test this for a little bit of a support. We test this breakout level and then move up. Okay, so that's one possible scenario. Okay, or it could just come back and retrace, unable to get back above that pivot, and then work itself back down to this trend line here, and see would it be able to hold that support. If it can't hold that support, then we're essentially looking for this thing to move lower. And next one is Alibaba. Alibaba, we said that again, we're also looking for this trend line to get taken out and come back up above this pivot high, this resistance here. And if we could take out these pivot, then the all-time high is back in play. And as you can see, it is making a nice move up. It just broke out of this inside coil here. And if we go back and take a look at the weekly on some of the Fibonacci level, we're essentially looking at this 159 160-ish area here. So we're still looking for this move to possibly get up to that 159 160. But again, it could pull back and fill this gap, fill this gap here, test this support level, and then make a move back up. Or it could come back and found resistance, cannot get back above this pivot, then it could work itself back down and try to fill this gap or test this this trend line. Okay, so just keep in mind on some of those scenario and start locking in some profit. And here's Tesla. Tesla, we're also talking about that. See how Musk gonna milk that news on the first Model 3 production call. We're looking at this gap get filled, come up to this trend line, and if you could find some support and possibly get back up here and probably fill this gap, then it retrace back to this retracement zone. So right now we're essentially monitoring to see would it be able to continue to move higher, to get up and fill this gap, or would it unable to get further, just kind of retrace and then come back in to this retracement zone and get back to test that 290 area. Okay. Then on Google, Google we also talk about coming up, maybe fill this gap and get above this pivot, breaking this trend line here. So right now it's coming up to that trend line. It did fill the gap, so we want to see would it be able to break above this trend line and get up to take out this pivot high. If we could take out this pivot high, then essentially we're looking at the all-time high to get tested and possibly get up to this channel trend line here. Okay. And Amazon also we're looking for this thing to bounce up and come up and see would it be able to take out this this trend line. If we could take out this trend line, then we're looking at these pivot. If we could take out this pivot high, then the all-time high is in play, and then we're looking for a extension of that move into the possibility of maybe 1050 near the upper channel trend line here. Okay, so right now we're essentially monitoring for that upside move, and if it can continue, if it pull back and found resistance, cannot reclaim this trend line and fall below this this trend line here, then we're essentially looking for this thing to come back down to this 927 and test this particular trend line here for support and fill out this little gap here, then possibly get into this retracement zone. And on NVIDIA, I was a little bit surprised at how quickly that it come back up, because I was saying that, these trap long here, I don't think the market will let these trap long out that quickly. But looking at the bounce here last week, it's a very solid bounce, and they also gap up on the week. So this is one amazingly strong stock here. So we just basically have to see would it be able to come up and take out this all-time high and put in a new all-time high here, because right now you're essentially seeing this one-time framing up. So it's just pretty strong here. So just kind of watching for this continuation move here, and then see how far this thing could go. And we could just put up some of the extension here, right? And we could use that to get a gauge of where it might be headed, at the 127, somewhere around 188. Okay. Then SNAP, that was the stock that we were watching for a possibility of a play, but as you can see that it is playing the scenario, one of this downside scenario that we were looking at. Remember on the monthly last week, we were looking at the monthly was trying to hold this IPO issuing price of 17. As you can see, that week it took out, the previous week it took out this low here. So we're saying that if we break this 17, then we want to watch this trend line here. And if we break that trend line, then all bets are off, right? So essentially, book that trend line, come down. We're basically looking for, the price is still coiling within this engulfing candle. We're looking for this thing to break that 1884 and possibly move up to the upper channel. That was one of the scenario that we're watching for a swing long play. But as you can see that it is coming back down, and it booked the 17 IPO issuing price level and booked this trend line, this price channel lower trend line. So right now it's sitting at 618, 1529. And if we take a look at this thing like either a symmetry move or a bear flag, the major move 100% is 1340. Okay, and near the 80% is 1446. So for all intent and purpose, you could say 1450. Okay, so right now it's sitting at that 1529, and if it cannot get back up, to this price channel, then I think there's further downside for SNAP. So right now, essentially, we want to take it off the watch list, and we're not going to follow it anymore in a video until maybe something interesting happened. Then we put it back on a list for discussion. But for now, next week we won't see that on the video unless again something substantial is happening to SNAP in terms of price action. Then the other one is Under Armour. Remember, Under Armour, we're essentially looking at this confluence, right, for this, to break out of this engulfing candle here, right, and then move it up to this upper band, and looking for this the price to break above this this band here, this trading band, and possibly come up and take out this pivot high, then work itself up to fill this gap. And that was one of the long scenario that we were watching. But as you can see, that it broke through and made some move, but it kind of pulled back. But it did hold a a higher high, a higher low, and then make another push and make it just a slightly higher high here, right? Then, but unable to follow through with this push up to come up and test this high here, this pivot high. Instead, right? Instead, it got rejected big time and came back down to this trend line. And we were saying last week, see, could it hold this trend line? And if it cannot hold this trend line, then we're looking for this thing to come back down to this pivot low somewhere around 1995. And most likely it will come down and test this and possibly take this out. And if this level get taken out, then most likely we're going to see these level get tested. This trading band, lower bound of this trading band here, okay, will get retested. So right now it's still kind of testing, holding this level here, right? Again, you look at this, it is setting up with some interesting trade price action here. So if you got in on long here and got stopped out when it dipped down below this 1995, you might want to keep an eye on this price action here. It might present another opportunity, and this time might be a little bit more favorable opportunity, and get it back up here, and possibly maybe this time might get up to this pivot high. So just keep an eye on this, and we'll take a look at that, continue to monitor this to see would it be able to hold this level, or would it come back down and test this level. And if it come down to this level, then again we're gonna keep an eye open for some trade location for swing long back up to this upper bound here. Okay, so let's take a look at Netflix. Netflix is scheduled to report earnings after the close tomorrow. So be sure that you don't accidentally trade into earning, because earning is a little tricky to trade. I normally do not want to hold any position into earning on any stock that is scheduled to report earning. But that's a different style up to the individual. So anyway, let's take a look at Netflix. Netflix last week, we're looking at saying that want to see it reclaim this channel, right? Get back up to this channel, inside this channel, and take out this trend line, break above this trend line, then come up to this pivot. If it could take out this pivot, then the all-time high would be back in play. So as you can see, it pretty much did what we were watching for. Came up, reclaimed the channel, broke the trend line, come up, took out the pivot. So right now is want to see would it be able to get up to this all-time high. Now here's the projected price move by the market. The downside after earning is 147.55, and the upside is 174.70. So essentially it's in the upper channel trend line or these low as the downside. Okay, so those are the level that you might want to keep an eye on for Netflix on earning report. And finally, here's Goldman Sachs. And Goldman Sachs, we're talking about watching this thing to break this this band of resistance, and then maybe come back up, do a retest and go, and that's where we want to look for trade location. Okay, once again, Goldman Sachs is scheduled to report earnings before the market open on Tuesday, so you might see some pre-market action when it report its earnings on Tuesday morning. Okay, so we might want to bear in mind on that. We're still basically looking for monitoring for this thing to break above this band, maybe come back and test and go. All right, so right now the market is pricing a 221.82 on the downside and a 235.37 on the upside for its earning report. And we're essentially looking at the possibility if it break this band, this consolidation band or trading band, we are looking at a major move 100% at 246.24, and if we could take out this, then it could possibly work itself back up to its high of 255.15. Okay, so those are the levels that we are watching, and hopefully you find this video informative, and please click on the thumbs up to give a like. And if you are not a subscriber of this video channel, go subscribe, and you'll be notified whenever I post a new video on YouTube. Thank you for watching, and good luck on your trading.